Ladies and gentlemen, from the depths of flyover country in the heartland of America, the Kansas City on the other side of the mighty Mo, welcome to Hittin the Bricks with Kathleen, the do-it-yourself genealogy podcast that features your questions and her answers. I am John, your humble hubby host, and we'll be talking to Dennis Allen and Lanae Strovers about the Final Salute project. So let's start Hittin the Bricks. And hey, good morning. We are here on Hittin the Bricks with Kathleen, and we're here with Dennis Allen and Lanae Strovers.
I'm Lanae Strovers, and I live in Monroe, and I am a licensed funeral director and embalmer. I've been licensed for a little over 10 years, and I hang my license at Hamilton's Funeral Home. More recently, I've switched positions to where I work for the National Funeral Directors Association, and I'm their trainer. So I get to go to mortuary schools and funeral homes and conventions and teach funeral directors how to be funeral directors. And so that's been a new adventure for me, and I love that. And then most importantly is I'm the president of the Final Salute, which is a group that we formulated this last couple years, and that's a group that we find unclaimed cremated remains and ensure that they're laid to rest.
That's fantastic. Dennis Allen, I know you're a retired firefighter.
Yes.
And you're heavily involved in the Final Salute.
Yes.
But can you tell us a little bit about what's bringing you here today?
So my part in this was we partnered with Lanae, and Cris and I, we do the genealogy side. And Kathleen has taught me genealogy over the years, so that brings me to you guys.
You're in the funeral world too.
Cemetery.
We run
the cemetery world.
Yes. And we've got a lot of spaces that we've donated for the Final Salute to use for our civilian side burials, and we just had 36 infant children's, how would we say that, Lanae?
There's 35 total. We were able to return
35.
One kind of the last minute. They were all infants except for one 2-year-old.
I need to make sure I understand, what does the Final Salute do, and what does it mean that you have civilians, because I thought it was a veteran organization. So maybe someone can touch on that.
I can do that. So let's go back to where Final Salute came from and where it started, because that's really going to be where you're going to understand what our mission is. So about 7 years ago, I had to have a pretty major surgery and was going to have to be a bed rest for 3 months following that surgery. And I was taking a medical leave of absence from work, but I wanted something to do because I was going to be stuck in a bed for 3 months. And so I had asked the owners of the funeral home, is there a project I can do? Is there envelopes I can stuff, or, whatever, just something to do, or I could do from home. And so the owner had given me a list of names. Every person who's in our care has a data sheet, so 300 data sheets, all of the urns that are in our basement that have never been picked up. And I was like, holy cow, I had no idea, and I'd been working there, for years, and had no idea we had these 300 urns. So I just started calling. My sister was supposed to come get Mom. I thought she did. I'm so sorry. We'll be right there. Some of it was, we're just not ready, and that's okay too. Then there was a pretty large group of urns that didn't have anybody. Either when they died, we had a guardian who worked with us, or some of them were family members where the person who was in charge of making funeral arrangements for the one person had also died, and I had both of them. And so we were running circles with some of these urns, realizing there wasn't anybody to come pick them up, and that's why they had been sitting there, some of them for years. And so I had thought, we can't just keep them in our basement. We need to do something with these. We need to be respectful. And that's where Cris and Dennis came in, because I needed to find a cemetery that we could bury all of these people. And at that point, we had no money. So I was going completely off of donations. And Cris and Dennis said, yep, let's help you with this. The very first service we did, it was very private. I want to say there was just 5 or 6 people were there, and I think it was 8 or 9 children that we had done a small service for. And the next year we had the civilians. So that's how we categorize it, is we have children, we have civilians, and then we have veterans. So we were gearing up to do this mass burial of the civilians, and I believe that was about 86 people. But we realized in that group that we had a couple of veterans, and we felt pretty strongly that they should have a separate service. And so we pulled those 3 veterans out of that group. We have a beautiful veteran cemetery close to us. It's just stunning. I mean, it really is. And I just felt that's where these veterans should go. So in 2018, we had a service for the 3 veterans, and I invited, the local VFWs and Legion Halls, and I really didn't think that many people would show up. I didn't know what to expect. And it was unbelievable. We had a couple of hundred people. Our governor was there. A huge turnout by local law enforcement. And it just really was kind of a very eye-opening experience, and realized, okay, what we're doing is really important to the veteran community as well. And then it just kind of snowballed since then. The second year we found more veterans. Now it's been where they're not just coming from Hamilton's, the funeral home that I worked at, but they're being turned into us from the police department because they're being found on the side of the road. We get people that are left in storage units, left in apartment buildings, left in cars, and so other funeral homes are now reaching out to us. So now we're getting kind of from all over the place. And every year I always walk away and say, oh, we won't have another service for a long time. And then the next year is bigger than the next year.
Wow.
So,
and I want to roll back there for a second. I can understand storage units and even maybe cars, side of the road.
Mm-hmm. This is a solid bronze urn. And so we found out that this gentleman, he was on the side of the road because the house that he lived in with his sisters, people broke into the house and stole this, thinking, oh, it's probably a jewelry box. Where's some money? Well, then when they figured it out, like, oh, there's a name and dates, they probably put 2 and 2 together and figured, oh my gosh, this is somebody's urn, so they threw it out the window. And it was in an intersection in Des Moines. So that's how that one worked.
I have to use that as a segue because I'm chasing the...
Chasing the Dead Requiem?
Chasing the Dead.
The opening of that. Isn't that a Des Moines police officer finding that urn? Is that where that comes from?
Yeah, so that's the story behind that.
So that's a true story. Oh,
yes.
wow.
Yep, it's a true story. Yep.
So let's talk a little bit about the movie. Tell me a little bit about how that movie is tied to the final salute of the unclaimed veterans.
I would say, from my perspective of being on both sides of it, I would say that about 90% of it is real. Now, we embellished a few little things here and there, but the story is, the whole storyline and premise of everything is 100% real.
And the name of the movie is what again?
Chasing the Dead Requiem.
And how do people access that?
I saw it on Tubi.
Yes, it's on Tubi for free right now.
It's also on Amazon Prime.
So it's about Lanae's journey in life because she was adopted, and how she sought out her parents through genealogy and that, and how it parallels her life as a funeral director, the care that she takes because she was abandoned, these cremations are abandoned. And she tries to use the same synopsis, her genealogy research. That's why she wanted us to do genealogy research for these people. So it's the same, they go parallel, her life and the final salute.
Okay, I know what you're saying, Dennis. Can you tell us a little bit more about Cris?
Cris is my other half. Cris keeps me in line like you keep John in line, but we both fight it. So, she is a genealogist along with me, and we both have different strengths in that. And so we play off of each other when we're researching for a family or something. I'll give her ideas. She'll run with it. She'll give me ideas. I'll run with it. We'll jump to Lanae because she's done her genealogy and has a concept of it, and Lanae will run with it, and then she gets it back to us. So all 3 of us are doing things, and now we have a couple volunteers who are helping us as well.
Oh, wonderful. You mentioned that you donate your plots for the civilians and for the babies. What is the name of the cemetery that you all own?
We run Avon Cemetery. It's a township cemetery on the southeast side of Des Moines. It's pronounced Avon, really, but most people call it Avon. It's about a 7-acre cemetery, and we're non-perpetual care, so we don't have to collect some of the fees that the city cemetery does. So it makes it nice for us when we bury mass burials.
And then, Lanae, you mentioned you all can go and use the Veterans Cemetery for the veteran side. Are you all getting funding from some veteran administration, or how is this paid for?
We don't get any money from the Veterans Administration. They do cover the space and the headstone at the cemetery. That is entitlement to every veteran. So it's not just the unclaimed. So any veteran can go there, have their space and headstone paid for. We have been very lucky that we have a community that has supported us financially. This year we have 5 spouses. They're actually 5 couples, 5 sets of husbands and wives. The wives are $300 each, so we have to pay that out of pocket. The urns, the materials to make the urns, there's the advertising that we do, the print of the programs, just the display stuff. Sure, people don't think like, oh yeah, you have to have tables and tablecloths and all of that. So it's a lot that goes into it.
So can you tell me a little bit about your fundraising?
I was going to ask, do you work on private donations or?
Yeah, so we're strictly private donations. So we are very lucky because Simon Conway, he is a radio show host here and he puts us on the radio all the time. He has some very dedicated followers and a lot come from his followers.
If somebody wanted to, if somebody's listening to Hittin the Bricks and says, that just sounds absolutely wonderful. I have a check for $10 I want to send in. How could they do that?
Yep. To go to our Facebook page, it's just The Final Salute. If you search that, then it comes up. There's kind of our logo is folded hands that have the flag on it.
So that's going to be the www.facebook.com/ the one that leans forward, and then The Final Salute, no spaces. I saw that it looks like your next piece is September 27th. And Kathleen, I think I ran over your...
John, you mentioned the upcoming program on Friday, September 27th, and I'm honored to be a part of it. But I'm hoping that our listeners know what it is. How does this work? What is this Final Salute?
What we will do is we will have an hour of camaraderie hour. And that's where people can come together, they can visit. We have a lot of memorabilia and things on display. And that's just kind of a time of visitation. And then we'll have like coffee and cookies. And then at 11 o'clock is when we have a memorial service. And what people sometimes forget is that you are at the funeral for these people. And so we tell their stories. So that's where the research comes into play. Is we like to make sure that each one of these people is known for more than just a name, dates, and the branch. We want to say, where they were born, if we can find out what they did in their life, if they had hobbies, if they had family, things like that. So we tell their stories. Every veteran also has 3 representatives from the community. So each veteran has a flag bearer. We also have an urn bearer, which carries the urn. And that's a very humbling role to play because you're carrying that person for the last time. And then each veteran has a flag recipient. So if you go to any military family or military funeral, the family is typically who receives the flag at the end of the service. And unfortunately, these veterans don't have that family. So that's where the flag recipients step in and receive that flag. Those people are chosen very specifically because we know somebody that is going to take good care of that flag and understand what they're doing. This year, we have 20 veterans total. So we have 1 Civil War. I believe we have 4 World War I. We have multiple World War II, multiple Korean War, and multiple Vietnam Wars. This is the first year we actually have all 5 military branches that are going to be represented. Sometimes we just have 1 or 2, but this year we have all 5. So it's as long as you've served in the military and you are eligible to be buried in the Iowa Veterans Cemetery and you have not been picked up by your family or we cannot locate your family, then that is who goes into this.
So whenever we do this, we pick who we think is going to represent that person in a positive way and how it best looks toward the families since they can't be there. We try and get a veteran of their field. So if there's a Coast Guard, we'll look and see if there's a Coast Guard person to receive the flag, to bear it or something. We always want somebody from their branch of military to represent them. And this year we have Joseph Chittister, who is a Civil War veteran. And I told Lanae, I said, the only thing I want is Kathleen to receive this flag. And so she asked me why, and I started going across everything. Well, he was a Southern soldier who fought for the Union. He was a man from Tennessee who moved to Kansas City, where you're from. He still has family down there if we could locate him, but hopefully they hear your podcast and will speak up. And then also knowing that you are a big military researcher, it's everything just fit right in there, and it's like, I want Kathleen to receive this.
And how often do you do these ceremonies?
This year we've done one every year since 2018. Mm-hmm. I last year buried 14 people, and Dennis can attest to this. I walked away that day and said, "No way, we're doing a service next year. We'll never have the veterans to do it." And this year is by far our largest service. So every year I think that oh, this will probably be it, and then I put my foot in my mouth, and we already have the veterans for next year's service. Where we had to kind of cap it to be able to do it right and to tell their stories. And since then, we've had a few more turned into us. So we will do one again next year already.
It's an amazing story when you go from bed rest and a discovery in a basement to what you're providing now.
It's kind of mind-blowing. People, when I look back and think of it, I'm like, how did we get here?
And as you were just saying, there's obviously such a need for it, and I don't think that I would have ever thought that there would be that level of need. I would think the same as you. Well, after how many of these unclaimed, but yet still it goes on. So obviously you've tapped into something that is not only appreciated but much needed.
So my last question is, are other cemeteries and organizations getting involved like yours? Are you recruiting others to do it in their community?
We've gone over to Lincoln, Nebraska and talked to them about what we do in this manner, and they are very interested in trying something similar. We don't know if we want them to join with us or if they just want us to shadow them and get them started in that, because everybody's going to do it differently and every state law is different, so they have to have their own settings. But we want people to reach out to us if you're curious about it and want to do something like this. Lanae can do a great job in teaching you what to do, and we give them guidance, and we hope that helps them.
We'll never say no to helping anybody, and if anybody ever reaches out and says, hey, this is what I've got, I kind of want to do it on my own, but I need some help, 100%. If there's a funeral home that says, I got 10, 15 urns of veterans, I don't know what to do with them, can I send them to you? Absolutely. We're never going to say no. It's just about figuring out the right way to help them to be respectful to the deceased that are in their care.
Fantastic. I mean, this is really, really enlightening. I've come to think that Western culture, our culture, is so strange and thinks of death in such a strange way that we ignore it most of the time up until the last couple of months before all of a sudden people realize, oh, this actually happens, even though it happens to everybody. And so we tend to take a very standoffish approach to it. But what I'm finding is that this is kind of a life-affirming, I wouldn't think coming from a funeral director that it would be as life-affirming as it seems to be.
I agree with you, John, on that.
It's crazy because as a funeral director, I see so many different cultures, and Americans are terrible at death. We just are. We are not good at it. And we have a lot to learn from some other cultures about respect for our elders, respect for the dead, and the process behind that.
This has been absolutely wonderful, and we'll get to see you all, you both at least, and hopefully Cris too, Dennis, on September 27th.
Anything you need to plug, Lanae or Dennis, or you would like other people to know about you all or the organization?
I just think as your podcast goes out, just let everybody know they're invited to come and enjoy. And it's a humbling experience. Like we said, this year we involved more children because we want to help get them started in the right direction with the respect of our veterans and our deceased and things like that. So Lanae reached out and children made our urns this year.
Yeah, that's fun. What does that mean that children made your urns this year?
Go ahead, Lanae.
We had a high school shop class that they do a project every year for veterans, and we approached them if they would be willing to do that. Jumped on board, and I cannot wait to show you these urns. They are incredibly beautiful. And so some of those kids will be the representatives for a veteran, and they will be attending the service as well.
Fantastic.
Lanae, shout out to this high school. And do you want to mention the high schools?
So it's Prairie City Monroe High School, and the shop teacher who has coordinated it all is Tim Crowder, and he has been just incredible.
That's really wonderful. And so to our 6 listeners, you heard Dennis. You can probably all carpool and get in the car and go on up to Des Moines.
Thanks for sharing, Lanae and Dennis, because I learned a lot. And if my editor can get this out, my producer can get this out faster than
He's
the 26.
going on vacation here in about 14 minutes. So.
No, he's not.
And the biggest thing is people don't understand how much this ties into genealogy, your spot. So
Right.
Yeah.
And so I'm really excited about even writing writing a blog post about it so that I can actually tie in, what else can you do? How can people find their lost ones, by the way?
You cannot start another podcast. No, we just wrapped. You are both invited back
Dennis,
on.
we'll talk later.
And she can ask that question at another time.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
we'll see you guys soon.
All right, thank you.
Well, congratulations. You've made it to the end of another episode. Thanks so much for staying. Thanks to My Heritage and Legacy Family Tree webinars. Thanks to Chewy Chewbacca Brandt, our part-time deltiologist and full-time panopictographist, for his unwavering lack of interest in anything we're doing. The theme song for Hittin the Bricks was written and performed by Tony Fistknuckle and the Convocation. Watch for their next appearance at the Rathskeller behind the Student Union at Spelman College. You can find us wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. Do you have a genealogical question for Kathleen? Drop us a line at hittinthebricks@gmail.com and let us know.